right, welcome to Your Time, Your Money, the show where your time is just as valuable as your money, and we know that. I have an amazing guest host today, Lauren. Welcome.
Hey, Mark. Thanks so much. Glad to be here.
Yeah,
in our new podcast space.
Our new podcast space. This is exciting. As a reminder to our listeners or new listeners, this is a charity token episode. Mm-hmm. So what that means is throughout today's episode, we are going to do a horrible job at trying to...
We're going to do our best.
Yeah, we're trying to intertwine non-financial hints of where we hid these charity tokens. We have 10 of them hidden around the Capital District area. Mm-hmm. One of them has already been found. And basically, that is going to tell our listeners where they can find this token, claim it, bring it to us, turn it in, and we will donate $1,000 to a charity from our list of 10 charities. Check out our charity episode if you want to know which charities they are. Mm-hmm. And you will also receive a $100 gift card to a restaurant of your choice. We've had some good restaurants chosen so far, so that's excellent. But we will try to intertwine really weird topics into today's session. So for our listeners, bear with us. Usually our sessions are a lot more streamlined. Yep. But as we get through this, we want you to find these tokens. So. Yeah. But we got a good topic today. I thought it was decent to maybe explain to the younger generation when they come out of college, like kind of how they should be organizing their finance, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really people's first opportunity at what I call like big girl money in my scenario. You graduate and all of a sudden you start getting real paychecks. You're not working at the pizzeria anymore. And what do we do with all of that, right? Yeah. And how do we set ourselves ahead?
Yeah, and a lot of times those decisions that are made early on right after college can make or break you. Mm-hmm. And we see a lot of people get into debt, try to get out of it like quicksand, but make the wrong financial decisions, and then they keep getting more and more in debt and more in debt. And it's not uncommon for us to find some people that we talk to that are maybe in their 50s that still have college debt.
I know.
And it's like, what's a concern to you? My college loans. When did you graduate? 25 years ago. Yeah. It's like,
still a drag on
if you're
them.
kind of at that point, it's probably because the financial decisions when you first got out of college were not really there for you. Mm-hmm. At least the advice and guidance wasn't there for you. So hopefully we can highlight some of those.
Yeah. I mean, what's the first thing you get when you get out of college, right? They're like, hey, here's a credit card. Apply for a credit card, right?
Yeah. Actually, even before, like when I was in college, they had credit card tables set up on campus. Yeah. I was like, wait a minute, I don't even have a full-time job. Oh, we'll give you X, Y, Z dollars. I'm like, oh, this is great. And then you find out.
Like, wait, there's a bill.
Wasn't very wise, right?
Yeah. So, what's that first step? It's overwhelming. You get these checks coming in. Really ask your parents, do they have an advisor that they work with? Is there someone that they trust with their own money? Yeah,
exactly. And if not, reach out to Iron Tree. We can more than help you. Look, it's all about making wise decisions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I remember when I was a kid, the wise was always related to like an owl, right? And they always had the owl with the Tootsie Roll commercial. Like, how many licks does it get to take to the center? And you'd be like, 1, 2, right? Well, you want to be wise with your decisions coming out of college. You don't want to make rash decisions. No. You want to be that old owl that says, "Hey, I'm gonna use some wisdom that maybe my parents or my parents' advisors can give me." Mm-hmm. And one of the common mistakes that I find people make is they try to pay off their student loan too fast.
Yeah.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with getting out of debt.
No.
But you got to do it the right way.
Yeah, and I don't blame most people. That's a large amount that they graduate with, and some people think they can't move forward in life, but that's just not the truth.
Yeah, and we always tell clients with debt, look, your debt is what you owe on a monthly basis technically. Mm-hmm. Because as long as you keep making that monthly payment, your life is still going to go on.
Yes.
It's when you default on that, then there's problems, right?
Exactly.
So, when you come out, you necessarily don't want to be shoveling extra onto the loans if you don't have to, because I would say prior to that, you want to get emergency funds set up right away.
Absolutely. You don't know what life has ahead of you. You're making a little more money. It's not that hard to carve off a little bit, a week, a month, whatever that savings plan is for you. And you can figure that out with an advisor that you can go back and forth with, and they can help educate you on a direction you can go. Yeah.
And look, where you fall in the industry with work and your profession and whatever, that is going to change over a period of time.
Yeah.
In the 1800s, the Hudson River was the commerce of travel. Now we use the interstate. Now we use jets. Now we use all sorts of
technology changes everything.
Yeah. So before you get too far into I got to pay this debt off, the first thing you need is that emergency
savings. And think about it. You just graduated college. Maybe you're still living at home. $825 might be the perfect amount.
Yeah, and parents aren't going to like to hear this, but I would recommend staying at home for as long as you can.
Save some money.
You know, it's literally the first period of time that most people don't have the obligation of marriage, kids, home, you know, all the things that you and I know come with all that. Yeah, right. And then that becomes a huge negative on your cash flow.
Makes it a little tighter.
Yeah, makes it a little tighter. So get that emergency fund built up, and then first and foremost too, find a good employer, right?
Yeah.
But you know, sometimes I think kids wait too long to find the right employer.
Yeah.
Versus just finding a good employer to start with to have income coming in.
Yeah. And what do you mean by a good employer? What are you looking for?
Yeah, right. You're looking for somebody that you know, is going to have a good work environment, that's proactive, not necessarily somebody that's, you know, treating you like a slave, so to speak. Right. You're going to look for one that has convenient hours to the hours that you need within your schedule or your life, and obviously pay is good too.
Yeah,
you want to make
benefits.
sure. Yeah, you want to make sure pay is there. You know, I think a lot of times too, some of the younger generation goes too far towards the benefit side when it comes to hiring, because they're maybe getting that from their parents.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You need a pension.
Right.
You know, you need phenomenal health care. You need whatever. And I'm not saying that you don't need it, but when you're 20 some years old and maybe you're still on your parents' health plan, it might not be as important for your first job, not career, but first job.
Absolutely.
Where you have income coming in.
Yeah. And things are different now, right? Those, you know, parents of 20-year-olds now, they might have gotten that first job and stayed, right? You stay for the whole 30 years.
Yeah, I know my dad did. 34 years in at age 54, so he started at 20.
Right. It's different
right
now.
After college.
Yeah, it's different now. Find somewhere that's going to pay you for your qualifications, right? Pay equality. Make sure you're getting enough money for yourself, and start a savings. Start a Roth. You don't need any tax deductions yet.
Yeah.
Start saving for your retirement. You will thank yourself when you are 60 years old.
Yeah, you know, exactly. And look, you make connections when you work somewhere. And you don't know where those connections are going to lead you. You don't know the profession that it's going to lead you to. It might not even be in the profession that you studied in.
No.
But at least make the connections, get some experience out there. If you don't have experience, I know when I went into college, I had already had years of work experience from when I was like 11 years old. I had jobs. But you know, you don't know what that person's background is going to be, and maybe this is their first job ever.
True.
Which, you know, if you're 20-some is your first job ever, well, yeah, it's privileged. It's
and
there's nothing wrong with that. But you know, you don't have a eye-opening when there's, you know, more hours that
your parents might not mind if you're still living at home in college. You know.
Exactly. I remember I had a professor, William Pomeroy, and he always talked about make a historical marker that makes a difference in somebody's life. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's a signal that, like, hey, I'm out of college and I'm going to change the world.
Yes.
But you start changing the world by working.
You want to find your anchor point. You want to look right at it, and you want it to point you in the right direction.
Yeah. You make a good point, right? You know, an anchor can ground you, but depending on which way the current's going, it's also going to point in a certain direction.
Yeah.
Right. So you might have a good anchor of your degree, but by working, that current is going to point you in the direction of where you need to be for maybe a career that you never thought of.
Right.
Right. And wow, that's the golden eagle right there. It's like, hey, I found it. It's right there. Anchor points the way. You go, and then now you're in a career and a profession that you love to do.
Yeah.
And if you love to do something, then income comes second.
Exactly.
At that point.
Exactly. And that's how you gain experience, and that's how you figure out your right path, and you meet the right people.
Yep. You know, and the other thing, you know, too, is, you know, once you get out of college, obviously keep your bills as low as possible. Don't necessarily go and buy the high-end car as your first car. Like a lot of people get the euphoria of, I have a paycheck, I'm going to go lock into a $700-800 a month payment for my car, and all of a sudden that trend starts and it's hard to catch up. It
is hard to climb out of that once you start.
Yeah.
Because how do you go down from the best, right?
Yeah.
You've now given yourself that.
Exactly. And another thing to look at with an employer is, do they have a retirement account for you? And you should immediately enroll in that. Don't wait. Like the minute you're allowed to, enroll. Even if you only think you're going to be there for a year or two, right? Why is that important?
Because you can roll it over.
Yeah.
You can move it. You can roll it over to us at Iron Tree. You can roll it over to your next employer, whatever the fit is.
Yeah, I can guarantee you there's a listener in all age demographics that has 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 old work plans.
Absolutely. Everyone out there does.
And they're frozen.
Yep.
And that's the worst thing you can have is a frozen work plan. And listeners need to understand, I think this is a really good point, is when a plan is frozen and you can't add to it, it means you can't dollar cost average.
Right.
Right? It means that if the stock market goes down like it has this first quarter, if you want to add in dollar cost and get a better rate of return, you can't.
No.
But in an IRA, you may be able to.
So many more options. It's flexible. And most people that have those old 401ks, they don't even know who to call to ask a question to anything, you know. You need someone to help navigate that.
And if there's a younger person with 2, 3, or 4 smaller old 401ks, kudos to them because they signed up for the plan, because most people don't. I'm only going to be here a year. I don't need it.
That year makes a difference.
Yeah. And usually there's an employer free money match.
Yes.
Right? I say free money match because you just have to put in 1, 2, 3%. They're going to match that. And you get to take it with you.
Yes.
And roll it, and it's your future retirement.
Yeah.
Right? So it boggles my mind when people don't sign up for free money.
I know. It's free money. Just take it.
It's like, I'm walking down the street. Boom, oh, there it is.
I don't need that.
Walk over it. Keep going.
Yes.
So, another key point, I think, for college age, individuals that are out of college is don't maybe rush so haphazardly into buying a single family home and establishing, I want to get out of the house with my parents and I want to get a home. It might not be the area that you want to be in, and you might take a bath on it depending on what the market's doing.
And going right back to your job, right? Did you just take your first job, or is this your career? So you might buy a home in not a great location. We've all seen what the housing market does. So can you sell it again? You know, we really feel like it's most important to get your finances under control. If you can get a great baseline and understand what you make, what needs to go out, and what you can save for older you, then you're rock solid.
And for the right younger person, and I say the right younger person because it's not for everybody, perhaps a duplex.
Yeah.
Perhaps somewhere where the rent that you have coming in from the other unit, even though it might not be where you want to live, it's at least having you at a net zero of cost.
Absolutely. Mark, that's where I started. My husband and I, that's what we did. We bought a 2-family. Yeah. And we lived in one of them for years.
Yeah. I didn't own a personal residence until probably 10 years into marriage. Yeah. Because we had lived in an apartment of buildings that we had owned.
Perfect.
And then ended up selling the buildings and rolled that equity into our now home.
Right. And then you get the home that you want, right? You have, because you've spent the time and you made sacrifices. Make them when you're younger, before you have kids and before, right? There's more people depending on you.
Yeah. Because, sometimes you lose value as you go through that home cycle, depending on, the first home is usually not in the greatest area, right? Because you can't afford a $700,000 home usually. So, you run the risk of throwing money and dumping money into an equity position, being a home that goes down or loses value between property taxes and everything else.
Exactly.
So, maybe don't be so quick to do that. And then the other thing is to really plan out a good budget. Yeah. Right. And stick to it.
Yeah, and know the type of person that you are, right? Yeah. Are you able to stick to a strict budget? Do we need some discretion in there, right? Work everything in.
We need some fun money. Occasionally we need fun money.
And that's okay, but you need to know the type of budget you are, the type of saver that you are, so you can really be successful.
I mean, I know my answer to this question. I'll ask you, but look, you come out of college, let's say you're making 40, 45. Yeah. You're living at home with your parents. You have no vehicle payment. There's no mortgage payment.
This is like my dream.
There's no health care payment maybe at that point or anything like that. You just have your student loan. What percentage of income should that person be saving?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm maxing out a Roth every single year.
Right?
That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing first.
Look, and that's good that a listener hears that. Yeah. Is you should be trying 70, 80% of your income early on to funnel it, even if it's into the worst investment, a savings account earning 1% or something like that. I'm not saying that's the worst investment, but even if it's into something where you don't know about investing and you just save it in cash, it's the best time, right? Because if you think about it, as soon as the kids come, as soon as the mortgage comes, as soon as the marriage comes, all of a sudden now you're down to what, maybe 10% or 20% of your income. And that may not get you to retirement, especially later on.
No, automated systems create freedom, and it's the truth. If you start just saving that feeling of $50 a month coming out, $100 a month coming out, $500 a month coming out, whatever your budget allows and you and your advisor have figured out and it fits for your plan, you won't stop. You are now a saver. Once you've started that and you see the reward that you're giving yourself.
Yeah. Well, once again, be that wise owl, that person that sits up on the perch and looks at what other people do as far as mistakes and don't make the mistakes.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So I think we did a good job of, kind of outlaying the mentality somebody should have when they graduate college.
I think so.
The baby steps of, just to recap, come out, don't be so focused on paying off your student loans right away, establish that emergency fund, get working right away, whether it's the career you want to be in or not, get working right away. Let that anchor guide you, make sure that you're saving as much as humanly possible, and then start making wise choices once you have a nice nest egg built up, and then can determine, all right, is it now time to buy a house? Is it now time to buy a car, and what car, or whatever it might be.
And the freedom of when it's time to buy a house or a car, when you've been saving for years and you can pick what you want, and now it's not a case of, do I have a down payment, right? You've already set it up for yourself. You set your goals.
Exactly. And Iron Tree Financial is always here for you. You can email us at irontreefinancial@ceteraIS.com. You can call us at 844-444-YTYM. Hopefully Lauren and I did a pretty decent job in dropping some clues today so that you could go out and find this, once again, our charity token, so you can pick from a list of charities that we have and help us donate $1,000 to one of those lucky charities and get a gift card for yourself. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. If you'd like to find out about other topics that you want us to discuss or anything like that, please reach out to Iron Tree Financial. We're here for you. Like, subscribe, look at us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, X. We're not Twitter, X anymore, but we're everywhere. We're everywhere. We're here in Latham today, so thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, it's your time
and your money.
All right, guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Your Time, Your Money. We really appreciate it. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to share this with friends, family, coworkers, anyone else that you think might be interested. If you do have questions or topics, you can always email them to irontreefinancial@ceteraIS.com. Please follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Spotify, Google Play, and many other sources that were available. And you can reach us at 844-444-YTYM. And as always, it's your time and your money. Cetera Investors is the marketing name of Cetera Investment Services. Securities and insurance products are offered through Cetera Investment Services, LLC, member FINRA, SIPC. Advisory services are offered through Cetera Investment Advisors, LLC. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity.